Hi, I'm Ed China and this is the DELEKS Leopardo or Leopard medium duty range of mowers. Now they're designed for tractors from between 30 and 70 horsepower and the 3-point linkage can either be a category 1 or a category 2. Now that linkage can either be fixed, it can be a manual shifter or a hydraulic shifter to make it easier to adjust that offset. Now it's really designed for wild grasses, rushes, scrub, that kind of stuff, but it also accommodate logs or twigs up to about 4 to 5 centimeters in diameter. And a really useful point to notice is that the mouth opening here is about 200 millimeters or 20 centimeters tall, which means that when you're trying to cut down large grasses, rather than folding them over, it really can get in there to actually mulch them up. Let's get it on the bench. Now, speaking of that extra wide inlet, you have all these protective baffles on the front. Now, on this particular machine, they've been made out of really, really strong steel. They've been reinforced, they're plated, but crucially, they're also individually hinged, and the pin that holds them all in place is made out of stainless steel. So they're never going to rot, they're not going to get stuck in position, they're always going to move nicely, and that means they're going to work better for longer. Now, a couple of other details. As with many of these machines, the prop shaft and the transmission are provided by Lombarda in Granaggi, which is a great quality company with a good reputation, which is wonderful. And obviously you're going to transmit that power into the machine using 4 17mm B-section belts. And of course that's going to be via these pulleys, which have a taper lock bearing in there, so there's no chatter, and it's going to transmit that power nice and smoothly. And all of this is protected by a really heavy duty protective cover. Now, with all DELEKS machines, the PTO cover is provided, and this is a really good way of protecting yourself while it's spinning, but also once it's stopped, it's nice and flexible so you can get your hand in to actually work on the PTO itself. It even comes with a little door as well. And finally on the bench here, you can see you've got this lovely skid. Now, it's been made out of big heavy-duty steel. It's been plated again so it's going to last longer. It's adjustable because of the holes in the chassis, but particularly this curve here is really very smooth, which means it's going to just slide along the ground very nicely. Well, now the machine's on the bench in bits, we can see inside. Now you can see, first of all, the heart of the machine, the shaft. Now this is made by Arvedi, and it's very, very straight. It has a great linearity, and because of that straightness, it means that it's much easier to balance, and therefore there are many less vibrations, so it's quieter and runs for longer. Now, you can see along there, you've got all of these forged hammers. So they're forged rather than just cast. Again, makes them much tougher, so they can really kind of handle the abuse of when spinning around for hours and hours on end. Now, the chassis is made from Swedish steel, which is very tough and durable, but they also make a very specific product called HARDOX. And this stuff is 5 or 6 times tougher than that tough and durable steel. And there's a reinforcing plate that goes just underneath here, made out of that HARDOX. And the whole reason for that is that, obviously you can imagine lots of stones and things get thrown up from the rotor at high speed, and they normally would cause lots of dents. Those dents would start to rust and you end up with holes. This reinforcing plate is so indestructible that it prevents that from being a problem, and therefore your machine lasts a lot longer. Now the next thing is this reinforcing bar. Now it sits in this position here. Normally it'd be much easier to weld it into position, but actually DELEKS bolted into position, and there are 2 reasons for that. The first is when it's out of the way, you've got a lot more access for cleaning and for maintenance, but also when it's bolted into position, those bolts move ever so slightly, which means it reduces any risk of stress fractures and damage to the structure. Now, the roller at the back is pretty conventional, but it is completely adjustable for changing the height, but also it's got this cleaning bar, and that's also fine-tunable, if you like, and that means you get nice, clean stripes. Now, the last part is the rear hatch, which is this thing just here. Now, you can see it's got lots of folds in it, which makes it very strong, but there's this kink here is particularly important because when it's in position, it creates these vortexes inside, so your material is flying around and around, which means the hammers get a number of goes at it, and so therefore they can reduce it down into a very fine mulch. Now, if you don't want that fine mulch, then you can actually open that hatch, and then what will happen is the material will come out earlier when it's much bigger, and that's great for making hay while the sun shines.